wisdom that comes with hindsight, because after 20 odd years of homeschooling, we have definitely learned a thing or two. And I think if we had to do it over, we would do it again and maybe handle some of the struggles we faced a little bit better. And this is kind of in keeping with our theme that we're going to cover in greater detail at the end of the month. We're doing that live stream we have planned on Christian homeschooling and talking about what it is and what it isn't, and some of the struggles that we've had to deal with in our own families. So when it comes to looking back with the hindsight that you have and the experience that you have, you wanted to go first and jump in with some tips you could give to a younger version of yourself or to new homeschooling moms today who might have similar situations.
Yeah, I thought about it when you said, let's talk about this. And there were 3 areas that came to me. And the first one was I would probably have not been so quick to jump into doing workshops and doing websites and all those sorts of things. I would have taken more time. It's not that we didn't have time. We had lots and lots of time, and we made lots of lovely memories and all that sort of thing. But your mind tends to be planning the next workshop or article you're going to write on your blog, or and then your mind is not present with your kids. And I think that and we didn't even have social media in those days, so I think in terms of where moms are today, my tip would be, if you are on social media and you do have a homeschooling blog or Facebook page or Instagram account, try and keep it as small comparatively to the amount of time that you spend with your children. And we don't have to always do things for the gram. Sometimes we can just do things in the quiet of our home, not to share, and be present with your kids. So that would be my first one. What would be your first wisdom with hindsight?
Yeah, I was just going to comment on that. I was thinking just recently about the very first homeschool expo that I attended with you in Cape Town. And it was at a tiny little church hall. And I was thinking, we don't have any photos of that. And then I thought, yeah, because there was no social media. And so there was no point in taking photos of stuff like that because you didn't share it anywhere. And I just thought how different it was back then to now, where everywhere you go, people take photos. And yes, they're good for marketing and that kind of thing. But, we just lived in the moment. We weren't thinking about the selfies and the proof of what we're doing to show everybody else. It was really a different way. And maybe we've got to just go back to that kind of mentality of, I'm doing this for this reason and not for social media.
Yeah.
So yeah, good point. If I think back to being a younger parent, I think one of the things that I think is a valuable lesson that I've learned for myself is, and I've had the benefit of having a lot of children, so I think I've had opportunity to do it better with my younger kids than with the older kids. But I think with the first 2 especially, you're trying to prove to yourself that you're effective as a parent and effective at disciplining your children. And so I read quite a few Christian books and other parenting books on how to train the child. And I feel that many of them had an overemphasis on an authoritarian kind of parenting where you must control your children and you must punish your children. And as I've read other resources, I've come to realize that actually reaching your child's heart and connecting with them and explaining consequences to them and explaining reasons to them works far better, because then they feel that they have a choice to choose to obey. They're not just doing it to avoid punishment or to avoid mum getting angry with them if they don't do what's expected. So I've definitely grown in that area, and sometimes I look back and think I was just too harsh and too strict and authoritarian and controlling with the first 2 kids. And as you've got less to prove and that your kids are actually turning out okay, you start to realize that there's more constructive ways to train them. So yeah, I hope that can maybe save somebody going down that same pathway, because yeah, harshness is not good.
No, it's not. It's definitely not. And I just think that it's time is what we need when we want to approach children and teach them in a grace-based relationship. And that maybe links into what I said before. You know, if we create that time, if we clear out the space, all the busyness around life in the 21st century, whatever that means to whatever moms are listening, then we have the time to engage with our children's heart instead of just like, stop doing that, or do this, or go to your room, you know, that sort of stuff. So
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
One of the other things that I thought about was we started off using Sunlight curriculum. Obviously, when we started homeschooling, Footprints wasn't around. We wrote that in 2002. And before that, we were obviously always attracted to the literature-based Charlotte Mason sort of approach. And being such a highly distractible person like I am, I grabbed that Sunlight schedule and held onto it like a life buoy. And that then made the schedule my taskmaster. A couple of years in, probably about 3 or 4 years in, and now having 4 children and not just 2, I realized that was choking, and took the big brave step to actually be accountable to myself, stop being so distracted, and say, well, the schedule needs to be my friend and I need to work with it, not let it control me. And eventually I completely threw the schedule out. And so looking back, I would have, particularly for my primary school years, I would have turfed that schedule a whole lot earlier.
That's a great one. And I remember the total freedom I felt when you told me, oh, we didn't finish reading such and such a book because it got too boring. And I was battling through it with my kids. And I thought, well, if Wendy didn't finish it, I think we can toss it too. And I think that was the beginning of realizing that some books are worth persevering through. There is value in sometimes reading a book that's a little bit challenging or a little bit hard. But sometimes if it's sucking the life and the joy out of your lessons, then toss it or replace it with something that's shorter, easier, got more pictures or whatever, something that's just more enjoyable, because at the end of the day, we all want to enjoy learning and not really hate it. So yeah, being flexible, that's probably the lesson. Learning not to trust yourself and not to be a slave to the curriculum.
Yeah.
And I think another lesson that ties in with that is, and maybe it also goes back to being authoritarian, but as I've got more experience, I've realized that it's really great to give my children more say in what they want to learn. I mean, obviously there's certain basics that, oh, something's popping up on my screen, sorry, a scan, distracting me. Obviously there's certain things that you want your children to learn, but it's really great to give them a choice and where you can, you know, let them have a say. And so I think I would have done that sooner also if I'd realized that actually you don't have to just do what other people say you should do or what the school system says you can do. You can have a lot more freedom.
Absolutely. And then the last thing that I was thinking of was when years ago, and this is the benefit of wisdom with hindsight, is that we didn't have as much information out about the danger of screens with children. And even though our kids got phones relatively late, around about 12, 13 years of age, I would have probably pushed that out a bit more. But we didn't have the information. Our kids were starting to move independently of us. But I think that freedom from a screen for as long as possible, particularly a handheld device which kind of shuts out the world around you, could have gone further, even 16 years of age, and maybe have one phone for a child if they are leaving the home to go and have a sleepover with a friend, although we didn't do sleepovers either, but I mean, to go if they got to go and do a gym competition or a pony camp or whatever it was, that they are at least contactable. But for a kid to have a device in their hand all the time, it's just such a seductive piece of technology that it's very hard for them when they are still young and tender to resist everything that is on there And even if they're not doing anything wrong, just that the way that it encapsulates a child and pulls them away from a family instead of allowing them to continue to engage. Do you have a tech-related thing there?
Oh, it's definitely a problem in our home too. But if I think back, my eldest got her first phone at 12 when she was needing to travel for sport and just notify us when she'd be getting home and where to pick her up and that kind of thing. But it wasn't a smartphone. It was just a phone for phoning and texting. So, you know, it's quite different to now, where every time somebody gets an upgrade, another child in the family, there's a spare phone available for them. And these phones nowadays are all smartphones. So they've connected to the internet and got access to all kinds of stuff. So yeah, I have taken some phones and just put them in a drawer. Like Granny gave one of the kids an old phone, and you know, that kind of thing happens too. And I just realized it's, you know, a young child doesn't have that maturity to control it and discipline it, and I am tired of policing it, so I actually just took it. And I think yeah, if you can prevent your kids being given a phone before they're mid-teens to late teens, you'll probably be doing yourself a favor. And you're not depriving them. Then they will learn how to use all this technology in the blink of an eye. It's not like you have to give a 2-year-old a phone so that he can keep up with technology, you know. Definitely it's more harmful than good at that age.
Well, yeah, hopefully that's been given parents something to think about. And then I'm going to put the details for the live stream that's coming up at the end of the month. It's on the 26th of August. And we've actually got 2 moms joining us, long-term homeschooling moms as well, and have such wisdom to share. And it's often nice just to have a different banter. So for parents who are wanting an sort of an insider's edge on Christian homeschooling.
Real struggles.
Real struggles, always real. We always try and keep it real. Please join us. The link will be below for you. Anyway, lovely chatting, Shirley.